Do you really know your dragons? Every Viking who ever stepped foot on Berk grew up learning 6 dragon classes: Strike, Stoker, Boulder, Tidal, Mystery, Sharp. But there's a 7th class, discovered decades after the first 6, and it doesn't just add new dragons to the list. It steals some of the most famous ones straight out of the classes you already think you know. Berk the Bold built this system 1,000 years before Hiccup was born, sorting dragons the way Vikings sorted everything else, by what they could do to you, not what they looked like. Dragons never got the memo, though. By the time Race to the Edge rolls around, half the rulebook needs rewriting, and some of Berk's most familiar dragons end up somewhere nobody saw coming. Start with the class most fans already get right. Stoker Class dragons are hot-headed. Most of them can set part of their own body on fire at will, and if that flame ever goes out for good, that's usually fatal, unless a fireworm queen's venom or comb brings it back to life. Monstrous Nightmare tops the list, the dragon that can cover its entire body in flame, which is exactly how Hookfang spends most of his screen time. Typhoomerang can supercharge into a fire tornado hot enough to melt steel on contact. Sinjatail hides a second surprise attack in its tail once its main flame runs dry, catching plenty of overconfident opponents off guard. Terrible Terror is barely bigger than a house cat and still earns its spot with a nasty, surprisingly accurate Spitfire. Then there's Red Death, the queen dragon from the very first film, the one every other dragon on that island was feeding just to keep her from eating them. She started out filed under Mystery Class, before Vikings realized her fire output put her here instead. Green Death, her closest known relative, is somehow even bigger and just as territorial. And here's where it gets messy. Hobble Grunt looks like it belongs with the Rock Eaters, small, spiky, built low to the ground. It doesn't. Hobble Grunt is very much a fire breather, and Stoker Class through and through. This system was never sorted by what a dragon looks like. It's sorted by what it actually does. Next, Boulder Class. The dragons built like tanks. These are Rock Eaters. Their stomachs turn stone into lava, which they cough back up as their main weapon. And despite short, stubby wings, they somehow keep pace with dragons twice their size in the air. Gronkle is the poster child here. The slow, sweet dragon fish legs practically adopted as a pet. Whispering Death burrows through solid rock and attacks from underground, jaw first, with rings of teeth that never stop growing back. Screaming Death is basically its bigger, whiter, far more territorial cousin. Hot Burple looks lazy until it needs to defend itself, then it's suddenly launching lava with real accuracy. Snafflefang used to be filed under Stoker Class, before Vikings moved it here instead. Eruptodon has to eat literal rock daily just to keep from erupting on its own. Sentinel stands watch over treasure hoards for centuries without moving, patient in a way almost no other dragon is. Catastrophic Quaken rounds it out, an armored, ground-pounding dragon that can trigger actual earthquakes with its tail. If Boulder Class has a theme, it's this: heavy, armored, and constantly underestimated. Now here's the class that didn't exist for most of the franchise. Tracker Class wasn't discovered until Race to the Edge. Once Vikings started training dragons instead of fighting them, and noticed a group of species with one thing in common: an incredible sense of smell or taste built for hunting things down. Rumblehorn can chew through solid ice following a scent for miles. Thunderclaw and Moodraker were both bred and prized by the dragon hunters specifically because their tracking is that reliable. Snifflehunch, unsurprisingly, has one of the sharpest noses in the entire franchise, and Gembreaker can sniff out precious ore buried under solid rock. And then there's the reclassification that upsets more fans than almost any other. Deadly Natter, Astrid's dragon stormfly's entire species, used to be filed under Sharp Class. Spikes, tail spikes, poisonous spines, it fit perfectly. But Natters are also known for sniffing out buried treasure and prey across unbelievable distances, and once that trait got taken seriously, the whole species got moved into Tracker instead. So no, Stormfly was never really a Sharp Class dragon. She just looked like one. Tidal Class covers the ocean dwellers and generally the biggest dragons in the entire franchise. Most can't breathe fire at all. Expect boiling water, sonic booms, or straight-up electricity instead. Scaldron spits water hot enough to strip skin and hunts by sensing vibrations rather than sight. Thunderdrum's sonic roar can knock a rider clean off another dragon's back from yards away. Sliquifier produces the sticky slime that makes Berk's docks borderline impossible to walk on. Shockjaw, true to the name, generates a genuine electric charge strong enough to stun. Windwalker rounds out the smaller tidal dragons, calm, loyal, and surprisingly fast underwater despite its size. Sand Wraith can breathe underwater or under sand equally well, which says a lot about how loosely this class defines ocean. And then there's the biggest reveal in this class, Titan Wing Bewilderbeast, the one that freezes an entire fleet solid with a single blast, isn't Strike Class like its raw power might suggest. It's tidal. Underneath all that ice, it's still an ocean dragon at heart. Mystery Class is the largest class in the entire system, which tracks since it's basically the catch-all for any dragon too weird, too rare, or too poorly understood to fit anywhere else. Changewing turns invisible and spits acid strong enough to eat through rock. Hideous Zippleback needs two heads working together, one for gas, one for spark, just to land a single attack. Bone Napper waits decades, sometimes an entire human lifetime, for one perfect ambush. Buffalord is armored, docile, and nearly impossible to provoke, which makes the rare moment it actually gets angry all the more terrifying. Snaptrapper hunts in packs of 4 heads sharing one body, which is exactly as unsettling as it sounds. Flightmare can paralyze an enemy dragon solid with one touch of its glowing mist. Slitherwing releases a toxic pollen that knocks out anything nearby before it even gets close. If there's a rule for this class, it's that there is no rule. Mystery Class exists specifically because some dragons refuse to be predictable. Sharp Class dragons share one obsession, looking good while doing damage. Every dragon here is built around some kind of blade, whether that's on its wings, its tail, or its entire body, and most of them know it. Razor Whip is covered edge to edge in blades sharp enough to cut through another dragon's scales. Timberjack's wings alone can slice down a full tree in one pass. Stormcutter needs 4 wings just to handle how much raw maneuverability it has. Speed Stinger can't fly at all, but it doesn't need to, since its paralyzing stinger and pack hunting speed make it deadly on the ground alone. Grim Gnasher and Windstriker round out the class, both bladed, both proud, and both, according to every Viking who's ever tried, weirdly obsessed with being complimented. Thornridge is armored in spikes thick enough to shrug off most direct hits without even flinching. Which brings us to Strike Class, the smallest, rarest, and most dangerous class in the entire franchise. These dragons combine speed, jaw strength, and intelligence most other species simply don't have. And every single one is difficult, sometimes nearly impossible to train. Skrill channels lightning directly through its own body, strong enough to short out anything metal nearby. Triple Strike carries 3 separate stingers, each holding a different venom, and can strike from 3 directions at once. Woolly Howl can vanish into total invisibility, using nothing but sound to navigate. Death Gripper is venomous enough that dragon hunters weaponized it themselves, strapping riders to it just for the fear factor alone. And then there's the dragon this entire franchise is actually about, Night Fury. For most of the first film, nobody even knows what class Toothless belongs to, because as far as anyone on Berk can tell, he's the only one of his kind left alive. That's the assumption most fans still walk away with. That Toothless is simply too rare, too unique to be sorted at all. He isn't. Once Light Fury shows up in the 3rd film, and Skrill gets properly studied, Vikings finally place Night Fury and Light Fury exactly where they always belonged. Strike Class. The rarest dragons in the world were never unclassifiable. They just took longer than everyone else to prove where they fit. So that's 7 classes, not 6, and at least 4 dragons that don't live where most fans assume they do. Next time someone tells you they know every dragon in this franchise, ask them which class Stormfly actually belongs to. Chances are they'll get it wrong too. If you want the next breakdown the moment it's out, the subscribe button is right there, and it costs nothing.